Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, we have Stacy Lauren joining us. She is amazing. You're going to get so much out of this episode because we're going to talk about goals. Don't say it. Don't say, oh, we're going to talk about goals again. No, we're going to talk about you. This is all about you. We're going to talk about community and building communities and the power and the momentum that you can create to transform your life. And forget transformation. Start taking small steps to building better. That's what we're all about. Stacy, thank you for joining me. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. I'm John Suzuki, and I'm your host. And we're going to get right into this. This is a place. It's a safe place. I like to call it a safe place because nobody here wants anything from you. We just want to share our experiences with you. It's all about giving back. It's all about love. It's all about heart. And sharing experiences that we've had in our lives and our own life's wisdom that you may decide to include as part of your life. Because, sometimes the best path to success is to copy it, right? So with that, I have got Stacy Lauren with me, and we're going to talk about some amazing stuff, some of my favorite stuff in the whole world. In fact, it may be my favorite stuff next to my grandkids and my children, my family. But anyway, Stacy, welcome to Finding Better. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to meet
Yeah,
you.
we're gonna have a great time. So, Stacy, the way we got connected is through mutual friends, and she did a TED talk that I want to talk about today. And her TED talk was called "The Power of Community to Help You Achieve Your Goals." Okay. Now, before we just gloss over that, I want to mention there's a lot to unravel in that one sentence. Okay, the power of community to help you achieve your goals. I am so happy to be having this conversation. All right, so Stacy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Wherever you want to start, let's talk. Maybe we start on goals. Maybe we start on
Yeah.
goals. And as we're having this conversation, we'll be able to go deeper and deeper and kind of wrap around who you are, what you do. You have a business, you do lots of speaking and all these different kinds of things. But I want to talk about goals, community, and power and
Yeah,
how it
I
relates to the audience and
I
how they
love
can do
it.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it because it's funny the TEDx talk was initially titled "The Missing Piece to Achieving Your Goals and Dreams." That's what like I had wanted, but what TED they end up updating it when it goes live, and it
Oh,
ended
I,
up
I like
being.
this. I like
And that's
this
what I'm
much
saying.
better.
I love that they did that because like for you to do
That's
it like that, I feel so like seen right now.
that's good to know because that's good
Yeah.
to know. That's good to know
Yeah.
for you out there thinking about doing TED Talks. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, we could start there because the
Yep.
missing piece to achieving your goals and your dreams is being in a community, and it's like
There you go.
so many people don't understand like this concept of goal achievement and how important it is to find your people with the achieving your goals. A lot of people think like my people is like one set of people that you have in your life, like your tribe. But the
Yes.
way that I kind of like have it in the TEDx talk, it's actually like any goal that you have to find your people. So, for example, when I did my TEDx talk,
Oh.
I needed my TEDx people. When I have my podcast, I have my podcaster people. So every goal has a specific set of my people. And your friends and your family and your regular support network, they are great, but they're just not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, and not only are they not enough, sometimes uh sometimes with every intention to do good and love you, sometimes they screw things up,
Yeah.
right? And because goals are hard to share, right? Because a lot of times goals come from your heart, and we're going to talk about goals because this is really important. But getting out there and finding the right people who are going to support the goal that you put for yourself. I set up goals all the time, right? What I've never heard anybody articulate until you, Stacy, is you need you create a tribe out of every goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was so cool too, because when the talk came out, I don't know if you've heard of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization.
I have, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So Vern Harnish, he's the founder. And after my talk came out, he emailed me. And I think I emailed him first
Yeah.
saying, hey, check this out. Because they were one of the people that inspired the talk because it's an amazing international organization. And he said that he like understood it even more differently after my talk that like because he's built this peer mentorship like all over the place, but hadn't attributed it to his own personal goals, and so he then created his own, I call them
That's amazing.
my people
Hmm.
group based on that. And so I'm like, so many people like they see that one group of people that maybe is helping them, but then they stop there, and so like right now, one of my goals is I want to get back in shape, right? And I know I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, I've got to find my people around this thing. And then the other thing I just noticed the other day, I was too much inside of it. Now I'm in like pioneer state where I'm like an entrepreneur, I'm a podcaster, I'm like a whatever you call it, all these different things, consultant. But like now it's like I'm actually like pioneering the new way, of like building communities. And I'm now wanting my like pioneer group. You need to be because like there's still some level of misunderstanding that people have, when I'm trying to tell them what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so it's so important because it can be exhausting when you're telling people that don't understand what you're saying, and when
Oh,
you
sure,
actually are
sure.
with someone that understands and they're able to reflect back to you what you're doing, it's like it changes everything for you.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of gives you validation, right? And valid.
Validation and momentum. Yeah, and
Okay.
understanding and feeling seen and heard and understood. I think that's the other thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go. I want to talk more about this about community, right, and how to build it because that's so important. Because a lot of us, including present company included, we put it up upon ourselves. Okay, I'm setting these goals. What do I have to do? Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I've never really looked at my goals as and taking the next step that you're suggesting that says,
Mhm.
okay, who's going to be my tribe that's going to help me achieve this? And in the meantime, it doesn't necessarily have to be a selfish thing because you're going to help them too, right?
Yeah,
Because presumably the people that you're going to be inviting into this part of your life have common goals. Have your goal,
yeah.
have the goal that you have in common, right?
Yeah, and that's actually when I help people build community, I really like to help them understand the piece that you just said, where you're able to help other people when they're in the community. And so you mentioned it from the start, like this is a safe space where we get to just talk, right? Um,
Hmm.
Simon Sinek talks about the power of the why, and how important
Absolutely.
that is. And
Hmm.
so the thing that I don't want to say he's missing, but at least from what I've noticed, the thing that we need to add to it now is the power of the why, and then you put it in a group, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Brene Brown talks
Then
about the power of vulnerability, and being open and vulnerable. But when you take that power of vulnerability and then you put it in a group, now you've got a safe space where people start to feel like seen, from each other. And because it's one thing to be in a group and to not open up and to just hold your stuff inside, and whatever. But like, if you're in a group where you guys are sharing why you're doing the goal and what might be getting in your way, what your struggles are, now it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you thought that too, you know, like all of a
yeah,
sudden,
yeah. And
yeah,
there's your validation and momentum right there.
yeah, there
It
you go.
starts to build, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say something that I don't mean to get political, and but it's something that just came to my mind, and that is, back in I don't know when it was, back in the '90s or something like that, when Clinton was president. Was that in the '90s? Anyway, whenever I've been around for a long time, and and they came out with this. It takes a village to
Hmm.
raise kids and drove me crazy. Drove me crazy because before you get to the village, it takes parents. It
Hmm.
really does take parents. And it all starts in the house, and then the village supports the parents. The village supports the kids. So it all starts in the home, and it all starts with parents. And so what I'm hearing in this, and the parallel here, is that your goals belong to you. Your goals
Mhm.
start with you, right? The goals don't belong to the village, right? And achieving your goals is not the village's responsibility. The goals that you set for yourself are yours. But what you're talking about, which is making my mind go boom, is building a village around each goal. So
Mhm.
um, I love that. I love that. 63 years, I've never looked at it that way. So you've just
Yay.
blown the top of
Yay.
my head off.
Well,
Let's
here,
talk. Oh yeah,
oh,
go.
I was gonna say, here's the other thing that after the talk came out, everyone was like, "Oh, my people," and they kept saying like-minded people. And then I'm like, "Dang it, they missed it. They missed it." And so because not everyone missed it, but there was like a lot of people, they understand now the power of the group because that was something in my community that I'd noticed that a lot of people thought my community was the only one that they could be in, and I'm like, no, you guys got to find other communities for your goals. So they got that part where it's like, okay, from the talk. But the part a lot of people missed was that my people, they thought it was like-minded people. And so when you're doing your goals this way, where you're finding the group for your goal, think about the diversity that happens with the people that you're with and the different beliefs and the different ethnicities and the different everything. Like it's like the most diverse group of people you could have. Like the military, think about it. The common goal is that you're in the military, right? Or you're doing a 10K. All the people are different. They're not like-minded. And so now I have a new word, which I'd change it. I'm still playing around with it, so I'll just say it out loud. But heart-minded, they're heart-minded people. And it could be like-hearted. I don't know. I'm playing around with it. But the point is to me, this is how we change the world. Like we're changing the
I,
world this
real
way.
quick,
Yeah.
real quick. Use that word, like-hearted.
Mm,
Use that word because people go exactly to like-minded.
yeah.
And what you just said, I am so happy we got connected. I just bought the URL. It's all about heart.
Mm,
It's all about heart. And folks who listen to this podcast, they know I say it all the time. It's all about heart. It's all about love. It's all about people, and it's all about helping people. And you help people, you help yourself. So with that, I'm sorry I
yeah.
interrupted you, but that's I mean, what you just said about heart is the whole reason for this podcast. It's everything I do.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, because like I think this is how we change the world because like this is what brings like cultures together. Because if you have a common goal, and I actually wanted this in the talk, but they wouldn't let me do it. But it's like even a common enemy is a goal, right? Like so aliens are coming down to invade the the earth. And all of a sudden countries that were fighting now are friends, and they're doing it together. And so I just know that once more people understand this concept, the more it's going to help people not only achieve their goals, but understand each other, and actually take the time to get to know each other without being so combative with the way that we operate sometimes.
Yeah, we as Western society, we are so two things. We focus so much on our smarts and not nearly as much as we should on our heart. And we spend so much of our energy, if not all of our energy, focusing externally
Hmm.
and not internally. And I love what you're saying about about bringing the world together because we have to. We have to. I often tell people that I believe that we all share a common purpose, and that is to make this world better than the day we landed on it. And
Hmm.
and we do that by lifting others. And you lift the world by lifting people. That's how you
Hmm.
do it. And I love how you're bringing this together with community.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to talk about goals here real quick because setting goals is something that very, very few people do. And I just want to share with folks how important it is and how much of a life changer it can be just by setting goals. And I want to share a Harvard study, and this came from well, it came from Harvard, and it came from this guy Brian Tracy, who is a sales guru a long time ago. But anyway, there was a study that Harvard did from 1979 to 1989. And what they did in 1979 is they asked the question to their class that says, have you a clear written, have you a set of clear written goals for your future and made plans to accomplish them? Okay, written, clear goals. Turned out that 3% of the graduating class had their goals in writing. 13% had their goals, but they're not written down. And a
Mm.
full 84% did not have specific goals at all. Okay, so 3 in writing, 13 not in writing, and 84 not at all. In 1989, they went back and they looked at that group. 13%, the 13% who had goals but were not in writing were earning on average 2 times more
Wow.
than the 84% that didn't have any goals at all. But here's the thing that just blew everybody away. The
Hmm.
3% that had written specific goals were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% together.
Wow.
And so setting goals is really important. I try to do it all the time, but oftentimes I mess up. But what has been your experience, Stacy?
Yeah, this is so fun. I love like I love talking to people like you that get it and you like because you're gonna help me even kind of like explain this more, I think, by just even the questions
Okay.
you ask. I'm obsessed with this. It's like this was the whole reason I started Do the Thing was because I owned a staffing company for 20 years and I just saw all of the mental baggage people have, when it comes to like doing things, which I think gets in the way of goal setting. So,
Oh, totally.
yeah. So I have a challenge. It's a challenge that actually gets people to I think I can help the other, I don't know if it's the full 97%, but I can help the people that like maybe struggle because it's hard sometimes to sit and write down goals, right? And so I put them in a group where it's a safe space for them to be open, be vulnerable, share why they're even wanting to set the goals that they're wanting to set and do the thing. And then I like encourage people to have like rough draft goals at least. Like if you can't do SMART goals, at least have a rough draft goal, have like an idea of what you want to do. And then instead of writing them, I mean, people can write it down, that's actually fine. But I have a comfort circle framework where I have them go live in a group basically and just speak out their goals. And I give them specific dare prompts depending on what it is. And it's not always goals. It's like, what is I try to open the mind to like an example is if money were no object, what would you want to do? So I don't do it
Sure.
in a specific
Sure.
way of like, what is
Yep.
your goal for this thing? It's like
Yep.
tapping at like, what is your legacy that you want to leave in the world? And that pulls it out. And then all of a sudden, you're in momentum. So then you're able to not only achieve your goal, but you're able to help and support other people achieving the goal. And so,
So what's an
yeah.
example of you having done this in your own life?
Oh gosh. Well, I have so the best thing is I have a Facebook group. So I started where I was dissecting this formula for how people achieve their goals, and do the thing. I actually interviewed people, thousands of people all over the world, like on my podcast. I went to Paris, I went to Italy, did street interviews, and really started to like identify this formula. And that's when I came up with it's called the I'm Game. It's an acronym. Each letter stands for the piece of the formula. And as I dissected the formula, I was like, okay, I have to test it. And that's when I started a Facebook group. And to me, like the podcast and the group, the combination of the two, it was like the momentum couldn't stop. And so my answer to your question is putting people around that goal. That's where like you could just get in the biggest momentum because it's no longer about you. Here's an example. I have this new challenge I'm going to be starting. And I was like, I'm really busy. I don't really have time, but I'm running it in another group and I thought it'd be fun to do it in my community. And I sent out an email and I'm like, "Hey, if 20 people are interested, I'll do it." Right? And at that point, one of the people that emailed me as someone that had done a prior challenge before that got incredible results. He's like in his 70s and he was like, in these 17 days, I've never like experienced what I did in your challenge. And so because he emailed me, I was like, you know what? I don't need 70 people. If he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. Right. And so, or 20 people. Yeah. Anyway, more than 20 people have joined since then. But the point is, it got me to say yes because I saw like I was helping this one person. And so that would be my biggest suggestion is either like joining a group or even better, starting a group, because then you get to see the people that you're helping. I get to
Okay.
be like, okay, I want to help Jean improve her confidence. So I'm going to do this for her. Like it's just, it gets you to get in that momentum and the energy of what you're doing more than anything in the world.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm gonna take it a step back a little bit and
Oh,
take it
thanks.
down to the core thing. What I would the moment you gotta set your goals first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people go, I don't know how to set my goals, right? How do you set goals? And it can be very easy. I'll give you an example of something that happened to me. When I first was graduating from college, you know, what do college kids know about what they want to do? Some know what they want, some don't know what they want. Some put their goals together, like those 3% that ended up being worth, you know, 10 times as much as the rest of the class. But I wrote down what I wanted. And I'll tell you something, when I showed my friends this list of what I wanted in my first job, they thought I was absolutely certifiably crazy
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to work for a multinational company. I wrote down, I wanted to make so much money. At the time, it was well over $100,000 for a, you know, out of straight out of college, which never happened back in 1980,
Mm-hmm.
1986
Amazing.
or 1984. And I wanted an unlimited expense account. I wanted an 18 to 24 month training program. I wanted international travel, specifically to Japan. I wanted a car. I mean, you know, I wanted benefits. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I had this whole list of things written down. So my friends were like, "What are you talking about?" Now, here's the key. As I said about this guy Brian Tracy, and you can see the book right there. It's called Goals by Brian Tracy. But anyway, so I put it out there. It was written down. I showed my sister, and she says, "You're nuts." And when I landed my first job, it had everything on the list. It had the unlimited expense account. It had the 18-month training program. It was with IBM. And IBM at the time was if not the number one company, but one of the number one companies and top companies in the world to work for. It works. I wrote down what I wanted in my wife. It worked. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote down what I wanted in my house. It worked. And so something happens, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
so and you don't have to be grandiose, although I do encourage BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna set goals, why not? And people go, oh man, it's not gonna work. It's not for me. Um, what do you think about that, Stacy?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, like I even when I yeah, when I met my boyfriend, like I think it was like 2 months before I met him, I wrote down what I was looking for in a relationship and I put down like 13 things on there and every single one of those things he had. And then it's
There you
funny,
go.
yeah, it's just funny because like then you're like, man, I should have written down more, you know? But I
Right?
didn't know it worked like that.
Yeah. Billionaire.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's amazing. And I love vision boards. I just like adding a piece which is the speaking things out because and I noticed I noticed this when I was at a really hard place where I had a couple big kind of moments where I'd gotten divorced, whole identity thing. Then a few years later I exited my business, which I was a whole nother kind of thing. And so I had a lot of help during that time. I had like a holistic coach I worked with, I had a psychologist, I had like all these people that were like trying to help put me back together, and and so that's when I started to like understand the power of a voice message because I basically would have these like micro sessions and I would leave a voice. I would be like, okay, and this happened and blah, 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 blah. And like, and kind of like go through what we do and we're like upset. And then I would send it to the holistic coach, and basically say, please help me, like this is what's happening. And then all of a sudden I realized, and sorry, before I say the all of a sudden. And then I also had a consultant where I was like sharing my dreams with, and like about when I started do the thing, and I'm like, okay, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm wanting, and then all of a sudden I started saying, "Dream, Stacy, dream." That's when that whole thing started. I didn't realize I do that, and so it got me to like access my dreams more. And so that's when I realized like I no longer needed to like send the voice message. I just needed to record the voice message, because by me speaking out loud, there's something about the record button. And I don't know if you noticed this with your podcast, but hitting record and being able to just like speak out your stuff, it like changes you because now you're going like even deeper, than you could have before because you can ask yourself questions like, is that really why I care about this? Like, what is the important piece? And you can ask yourself, and then it goes deeper and deeper. And then the same thing with your goals. You access your goals even bigger.
I find myself doing this in every single podcast episode as we're recording the podcast episode, right? I'm like, wait, what? Did I just say that? So there is
Yeah.
you're right. There's definitely power in in voice and voicing,
We sing. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
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 Totally.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's putting this all together. I just want to just mention one more thing with regards to goals. Folks, try it. Try it. And it's a gift. It's a gift. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself goals. And you know what? The more you want the goal, the more those goals, the things you want are in your heart, um, the better. The better. And of course, people say, I don't want to be disappointed. You know, the answer is already no, because, it may happen, it may not. But okay, so one more example. A really good friend of mine, he calls me up and he says, John, well, actually, I called him up. I said, how's it going? He goes, oh, I'm miserable. The job that I thought was going to be great, it just turned out to be terrible. And I said, well, why don't you do something else? John, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. I've looked, I've talked to everybody in our networks. Nobody has anything. I said, okay, Brian, are you at your wit's end? He goes, I'm at my wit's end. I said, are you willing to do something? I'll do anything. So I told him, I said, write down what you want. He says, but John, there's nothing out there. I mean, he was totally resisting. And I just said, Brian, write down what you want. Write down the description of the people you want to work for, the description of the company you want to work for, how much money you want to make, whether you want to be able to travel, what team you want to lead, and what you want in the role. All these different. Do you want to be a strategy guy? You want to be an operations guy? Do you want to just sit on your ass and just let things happen? I said, whatever you want. He goes, John, there's nothing out there. I said, Brian, you said you'd be willing to do anything I told you to do. I said, so get out a notepad, stick it in get a piece of paper, and when you come up with stuff, just write it down.
Hmm.
2 months later, I looked on LinkedIn, and he is now the vice president of sales of this really big company. So I call him
Wow.
up. I said, Brian, what the hell? He goes, oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't call you. And I said, what is up? And he says, I did what you told me to do. I wrote
Wow.
it down. And he says, and you know what? I got a phone call. He goes, how does that work? I said, Brian, I don't know how it works, but it just works. And the job wasn't out there. It wasn't posted anywhere. He got a phone call that the person on the other side said, hey, we got this role. We thought you might be interested in interviewing for it.
Wow.
So
Isn't that
folks, just
amazing? So
write it
good.
down. Yeah, just write it down. And then what Stacy is saying, if you want to turbocharge it, build a momentum around it, build your community, find people who are going to support you, you know,
Yeah.
and like-hearted people.
There you go. I love that you adopted it. Thank you. Yeah, and I would just like add a little just in terms of like I noticed this with anytime I do a challenge, right? I always have to see what stops people. And sometimes the idea of the kind of like black and white of like write the goal down could stop someone from like actually thinking, right? We just need a way to get the words to flow. And so sometimes like with the podcast, for example, once I changed it to if you were gonna start a podcast, what would your podcast be? Now all of a sudden people that when I said, what would be the name of your podcast? They were like stuck, but it's like, okay, if you were going to start a podcast, it changed everything. And so if you were going to have a goal, what would your goal be? And so feel free to just start there because as soon as you get it started, it comes, right?
So you're not saying, okay, that's amazing. That is so cool. So instead of saying, what are your goals?
Yeah.
You're saying if you were to have a goal, if you were
Yeah.
to imagine a goal, if you were to think maybe I could have a goal someday, what would it be?
Well, because our mind wants
It
to
changed
stop
it. Yeah.
us. Yeah, it wants
Yeah.
to be like, oh, because
That's
we think we have to be perfect and we think all this stuff, but
wonderful.
like, yeah, but when we can like rough draft the goal, now it's like, and granted, for some people, you're further along. So yes, get smart, get specific, get clear, get deadlines, right? But if this is new, and you're just like kind of like getting into this, rough draft goal.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Sometimes with my kids and sometimes with people that I work with, I'll ask them a question. I'll say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about this situation? I don't know. The person's really mad at me and I really screwed up. He says, I don't know what to do. I said, okay, so if you were to imagine different things that you might be able to do, or if you were to imagine different things another person, Craig would do, what would some of those things be?
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it totally take and you could
Yeah.
just see the person's every single time. You see the person's eyes just kind of go, "Oh, well gosh, if I were to imagine." Right? So
Yeah,
that's
totally.
what you just said. That's what you just
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
And it works, folks, it works. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, man, oh man. Okay, so you mentioned a couple of times the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the thing?
Yeah. So it's so funny because my goal now is I want to be the do to everyone else's thing because I've like developed a framework to help people take action on their goals in a really big way. And I love meeting people that are like doing the TEDx talks, they're authors, they're podcasters, they're entrepreneurs. They have this thing that they're wanting people to get around. And then I have a framework for challenges that like helps people just like connect to the group and then also take action on the goal. And so the point of that is the thing is anything. And so for an individual, the thing is like the first thing you want to do. So and like the reason I love starting podcasts is one of the things I love helping people do, but because you see it, I could tell you this because you understand it, I'm sure. It's like the podcast, like it frees you in a way, like it frees your voice, it gets you connect deeper. So it's like it kind of like it's this one thing that you get to do, but it opens up like 1,000 other things. And it's like a
It
spider
does.
web of a network, a spider web of opportunities, skills, listening. I mean, when I first started my podcast, I was using it to practice my listening skills, And it's like there's just so much like there's so much that you could do with that. And so that's just like one example of a thing. It's like sometimes it's like thinking of something like tangible, but knowing that there's
Hmm.
like a million other things that you could do. I mean, even like I did a dating dare challenge after I met my boyfriend. That was what started the whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone needs is to meet someone in the person and not online, right? Because we met in person. And so the goal of the group was dating. But then what ended up happening was like where I'm, basically teaching people to go out and I had these dares that I gave them to like meet, just people and ask for help and different things. But what was inside of that was like they made new friends, they got out of their comfort zone, they had self-love, and really got connected. And so I think when you're thinking of your goals, it's like think of something tangible that you can go after, but knowing that there's all these like hidden benefits that you're going to be able to get from the goal. And so the thing
Yeah,
is anything, basically.
the thing is your thing.
The thing is your thing. Yeah, but it's
The
not
thing
meant
is
to
your
be
thing.
like one thing because what happens
You're
is
right,
when you
right,
have one
right,
thing, it
right.
opens up all the things.
So you just mentioned about how you enjoy working with podcasters and helping them. Um, my daughter, it is now 13 years ago, came to me and she says, "Dad, you got to do a podcast." I said, "Oh, what?" I mean, uh, I don't know what that is, and I no, I'm not going to do. I knew what it was, but there's
Yeah.
just no way. And so in 2023, 2023, I finished my book. And she came to that book right there. It took me 15 years to write.
Yay.
And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And she, after I finished my book, she goes, "Okay, Dad, so when are you doing your podcast?" I said, "You're bringing that crazy thing up again?" She says, "Yeah." She says, I said, "Why?" She says, "Dad, you know what? You've given our friends and us so much great advice. The world needs to hear what you have to say." This is my
Mm,
daughter. This is my
that's
daughter.
amazing.
And I said, "Honey," I said, "I no, who the heck is going to want to listen to anything I have to say?" And she says, "You know what, Dad? You keep saying that if you can help
Mhm.
one person, it'll be a success to you." She says, "So stop worrying about what other people are going to say. Just do your podcast and give it to the universe
Mm.
and let the universe take care
Wow.
of it." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." And I'm
Love
thinking,
that.
just one person. And that's so I started my podcast on January 1st of last year. It has been the joy of my life. I have 2,000 YouTube
So
subscribers.
cool.
I don't know how this happens. But just taking that one little seed of my
Yeah.
daughter saying, "Dad, just give it to the universe." And you'll get out of your head. And if that one person out there needs to find you, the universe will bring them to you. And
Yeah.
it has been the joy of my life.
And
It
that's
has
such
just
a
been
good
my absolute.
example. Yeah, it's such a good example of like how one thing can open up like all the things. And it's funny with my podcast, it started because I wanted to write a book. And at the time, I didn't have my memories. I couldn't remember stuff. So the book strategist was like, well,
Mm.
why don't you just interview other people? You can get their story, and that will help you write your book. And it wasn't until I don't know, I think like the second interview, I'm like, I should probably just record these, and kind of see. And that's where my podcast started. I don't have the book yet, so I'm not I'm not where you are, but
Okay.
I started
Yeah.
but I started the podcast,
Yeah.
and then it opened up, and then all of a sudden my memories started pouring back out because
Oh,
I'm talking to people.
wow. Oh, that's wonderful. And so, folks, we're not advocating that every one of you goes out and starts a podcast. Okay, it just so happens to be that we shared podcasts as
Yeah,
part of our experience. It can be anything. It can be anything. Write things down, right? What do you
yeah.
want in your life, right? And for me, that little book right there called Goals, and I'm not a commissioned salesperson on selling Brian Tracy books, um, but that book got me started, and it's
It's
just
amazing.
amazing.
Well, the other thing that makes me think of, so when I first started my podcast, it's do the thing, and I thought that's what I was wanting to help people do was do the thing. But it wasn't until like the 10th or 12th episode was when I realized, even though I've done the thing with like a lot of things, I didn't have my own voice as I was doing the thing. So that became like my brand now, where it's not just do the thing, where the thing is also like the thing that's like alive, like inside of you that you get to just ignite through action.
When you, when you just said the thing is inside of you, I thought about the alien, right? And they go,
Yeah.
out of your chest.
You
But
know
that's
what?
not what you mean.
It becomes that way because you get once you ignite the thing inside of you, whatever, however the better wording is, but like you
I
like
love it.
can't you get consumed by it because it's so exciting, and that's kind of like where I'm at now and like the people that I'm helping. It's like we're so alive that like it's like there's no stopping you. You see the vision for what you're doing and you just can't even go fast enough sometimes. You're like, I got it. I know what I'm doing now.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I love the word ignite. Because that a lot it only takes a spark sometimes. It
Yeah.
only takes a spark. But and we've all, I think everybody here, even some people more than others, right? And maybe some people don't remember experiences in our lives when we did hit ignition, when something happened where we just went, "Oh my gosh, I want to do this." I mean, it might have been in track and field in high school or
Mhm.
basketball. It might have been something at work. It might have been something at home and wanting to uh, host an amazing party for somebody. That part of your heart, I mean, when you get to that point, it goes from here to here, right?
Mhm.
From your brain to your heart, and man, that is just it's just so much fun to live with heart.
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
It really is. It's so much more fun. We just overthink shit too much, right? I mean, we really do. We overthink
Hmm.
things, and when you overthink things, that's where your fear comes in. And I talk about fear a lot. We are predisposed by our DNA to be fearful, right?
Hmm.
Because thousands of generations have been about running away and surviving saber-toothed tigers, right? And now just within a handful of generations, we don't have to run away from saber-toothed tigers anymore, but we still have that fear, that bias towards fear in our minds. And so
Hmm.
that's up here, bring it down here, and just remember those kinds of those experiences that you had where it came from here. And for a lot of people, it happens at Christmas every year,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. And I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing,
Thank
Stacy.
you. Thank you.
It's wonderful. You're helping people find their ignition.
Ooh,
So,
I like it.
right?
I like
You
it.
can
I
use
like it.
that. There you
I
go.
like
Your
that. Thank you.
tagline is
Woo
I
woo.
help you find your ignition. Woohoo.
That's so good. I love
So,
that.
so with that, we're coming. I oh, what do you want to share? How do people? You've shared a lot, and thank you so much because one of the things I talk about is I want all my listeners to walk away from any episode with something tangible that they can do, and we've given lots and lots of things. Folks, start with your goals. Um, and is there anything else you want to share, including how do people get more information about what you do, who you are?
Yeah, thank you. I
Here's
appreciate
you.
it. This has been so fun. And yeah, I would just add the part of the messiness. I that's what I teach a lot is like just doing the thing. You've got to just be messy at first. And
Yay.
it's a lot easier to be messy when you're in a group because now the people know you and it's like have that safe space to be messy together. And so that would be just another piece there that I would suggest. And then in terms of I don't normally do this, but I feel like it's coming out during this interview is I could give a gift to your listeners. So I do, I encourage, honestly, I encourage everyone to start a podcast because I feel like when you've started a podcast, even if you only do 10 episodes, it's a personal growth experiment in your life where you're getting to just
Ooh.
connect with another person in a really like deep and meaningful way. And you could stop the podcast. You never even have to publish it. And I have a podcast workshop that's an hour long. I normally charge, I think it's $47, but I will give it free for your listeners.
Ooh.
So yeah, so they just
Wow.
need to email me because I don't have it set up to be free. So just email me at stacy@dothethingformula.com and let me know that you heard
Stacy
it
at
here.
Stacy at dothethingformula.com.
Yeah.
And Stacy is Stacey. Okay. And
Yes.
Stacy, I'm going to ask a favor of you, and that is if you can send me an information sheet about you, and
Okay.
including this, I'm going to put it on my resources page on my
Oh,
podcast.
yay. It's
Okay,
exciting. Thank
or
you.
on my at johnsuzuki.com, and I'm actually going to launch that resources page this weekend,
Yay.
and
Congratulations. That's
and
huge.
you'll be the first on it. So,
Yay.
folks, there you go. You got a free gift from Stacy. Again, it's Stacy at
Dothethingformula.com.
dothethingformula.com. And
Yeah.
the last thing I just want to comment on. I love your comment about giving yourself permission to be messy. Because again, folks, we talk about goals and everybody goes, I don't know how to be perfect. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Okay? Be messy. Just go out and go have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and just write shit down.
Mhm.
Write down the things that you want. Excuse my French, but in some cases it is shit. But just write it down. Stacy's just giving you permission and encouragement to be messy, right? And it
Yeah.
always starts that way. So, oh my gosh, Stacy, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. There are no accidents. There are no accidents, especially when it comes to connection. And this certainly wasn't an accident.
Mm.
with you and me coming together. So with that, Stacy, thank you. I love you. God bless you.
Mm.
Folks out there, check it out and think about your goals. Think about some of the things that we talked. This episode can change your life. It really can, and it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be hard at all.
Mm.
And it's all about being kind and being generous to yourself. Okay?
I
So
love
with
that.
that, I love you. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.